כשהלב בוכה, רק אלוהים שומע, הכאב עולה מתוך הנשמה, אדם נופל לפני שהוא שוקע, בתפילה קטנה חותכת הדממה, שמע ישראל אלוהי אתה כל יכול, נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל, בעיניי דמעה הלב בוכה בשקט, וכשהלב שותק הנשמה זועקת, שמע ישראל אלוהי עכשיו אני לבד, חזק אותי אלוהי עושה שלא אבחר, הכאב גדול ואין לאן לברוח, עושה שיגמר כי לא נותר בי כוח, כשהלב בוכה הזמן עומד מלכת, האדם רואה את כל חייו פתאום, אל הלא נודע הוא לא רוצה ללכת, לאלוהיו קורא על סף תהום, שמע ישראל אלוהי אתה כל יכול, נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל, בעיניי דמעה הלב בוכה בשקט, וכשהלב שותק הנשמה זועקת, שמע ישראל אלוהי עכשיו אני לבד, חזק אותי אלוהי עושה שלא אבחר, הכאב גדול ואין לאן לברוח, עושה שיגמר כי לא נותר בי כוח.
And we are going to go to Sarah. And Sarah, I hope Sarah's with me. There you are, Sarah.
Hello.
So we're going to allow you to share your screen and you will continue the program. So thank you for coming back with us, and anybody else who will come back would be admitting them.
Thank you. This next poem is called Where Once Death. in writing my book, I do a lot of research, and to get a sense of the scale of Auschwitz, I will go to the panorama.auschwitz.org website, and because you can do a virtual tour of the actual camp itself. And one thing that has always struck me is the grass that is growing everywhere. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen Kitty Hart Moxon's Return to Auschwitz, but she spoke about how there was no grass except in one very small space. And she said that had there been grass, they would have eaten it. And so out of that came this poem, and I'll start sharing my screen here. Oh, screen sharing is disabled, Jeff.
All right, oh, sorry. There it is. Go
Okay.
for it.
Okay. And I have to pull up first. I'm sorry, I have to pull up my PowerPoint. Okay. I'm trying to figure this one out. Okay, I got it. All right. Should let me do it now.
Are you sharing your screen? Share your screen.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's why. Okay. And I will try to go slow with this one. The slides go pretty fast, so I will try to go a little slower so everyone can hear it. Where once death ran rampant, grass grows. Spring green shoots, tender and sweet, undulate softly, glistening with dew. Pointed tips bathed in dawn's fragile rays sprout from ash-stained earth. Where once death ran rampant, grass now grows.
Hi, Tibor. Okay.
Hi.
Tibor is going to tell you a little bit about his story. He grew up in Slovakia, and he's going to show you some of his art, because his quotes in talking to him are the titles for both our presentation on Thursday night, The Art Cured Me, and he also talked about how art had helped him to express the inexpressible. So tonight he's going to talk, first of all, a little bit about his story, and then how the art helped him to express all that had happened and how he felt about it. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Tibor.
Okay, my name is Tibor Spitz. You have seen that. And the title of this very quick show is A Healing Through Art, because I had to be really badly hurt by being 3 years on a death row, being 12 years old, losing practically all my relatives except few. Luckily, my parents, siblings, and a grandfather survived with us. You will see a lot of paintings, sculptures, and I created after Holocaust. And now my quick story. Our ancestors lived in Europe for many centuries. We lived in peace with our neighbors, and in a country called Czechoslovakia, which was created in 1918 and lasted about 20 years until the Second World War. You see on the map in red, on the left-hand side is Czech part, in the middle, Slovakia. I was born in Czechoslovakia, Slovak part, in 1929, which makes me 92, or this year 93 years old. Czechoslovakia was a democracy, very similar to Americans. If you see people on the street, you don't know what kind of nationality or religion they are. Our family shown here in 1936, which means that 4 years before Slovakia became a fascist country and anti-Jewish laws started, The right-hand side is my father. He was a Jewish reverend, a cantor, something like a rabbi in a small community of 100 people. In the middle is my mother. She was a teacher by profession. On the top is my brother. Next to my father is my sister. I'm on the extreme left. In 1938, in neighboring countries, in Germany and Austria, German and Austrian governments started very anti-Semitic actions. It was not anymore the laws. It was actions where they burned synagogues, arrested 30,000 Jews, unsuspected citizens, and broke a lot of businesses and Kristallnacht, which received its name after broken glass. Crystal means glass in German. Munich Agreement caused Czechoslovakia to fall apart, and Slovakia, in the blue here, became a Nazi country, a really strong ally of Nazi Germany. Naturally, they accepted all the anti-Jewish laws, which started in Germany in 1938. In 1934, and roughly 7 years later in Slovakia, they accepted Nuremberg laws and even made them a little bit more strict. Here, President of Slovakia is shaking hands with Adolf Hitler. We knew about Mein Kampf, book issued in 1925, which described eventually that the objective of the new regime is to annihilate, to wipe out Jewish race. Nobody naturally believed it, but people believe that it's a exaggerated politician is talking. And we started, not everybody started understanding that Slovak Jews were trapped just the same way as German and Austrian Jews, who had little more time to escape. Not everybody understood it. As you see on the painting I made, is a boy playing with some toys. Behind him is a mortal danger of a beast which might kill him. First thing they did is they marked us. We looked like other citizens. Nobody could distinguish religion of a person on the street, which means that we had to put on our chests a yellow star. In Slovakia, it was no text on it. It was about 4 inches in diameter. In Czech lands, it was Jude written on it, means Jew in German. And it was a little star, smaller ones for Jews who were important to the economy. They didn't want to kill them immediately because they needed them to transfer the properties and keep running businesses and so on. Here you see Slovakia in green, surrounded by the yellow part. In 1942, they were even in North Africa, and what you see, the countries in white are neutral countries, but they all cooperated with Nazi Germany because they waged a war, and in the war you need a lot of materials and steel and chemistry and so on, which means that business was really flourishing. This is Slovak president who got the idea to rob Jews of all properties in Slovakia and deport them beyond his country. And nobody would believe, because he was a Catholic priest, nobody really would believe that he's going to harm children, civilians, or families, as they trusted that it would be really some kind of a labor camp where Slovak Jews would try to keep Nazi Germany helping the war effort, and they would rather need us. And this shows from a book, a few photographs. On the left-hand side, it was a graffiti propaganda saying Jews are our enemy. And on the other three pictures, you see people, disciplined people carrying some luggage in their hands, which was the only thing they could take with them, and entering the cattle cars. These are my maternal grandparents, aunts, and uncles. On the left-hand side, my grandparents. And they were all deported, and none of them lived longer than a few days or few weeks or few months. They were all murdered. On my father's side, 7 siblings. My father had 7 siblings, and none of them survived. My cousins, uncles, aunts, cousins were my age. I was 12 years old when deportation started. We had to make because we were kicked out of school when I was 10 years old. I had only 5 elementary school classes. And all my deported Jewish schoolmates were murdered. And none of them made it. Here are a little older children or older youth, young people who didn't go to that school. In front row, those people went to school, but in the back are a little older. None of them survived, all dead. And I knew them all. We socialized, we were our friends. I was 12 years old when I understood that the chance to stay alive I was nil, because I would never even be chosen to work. I was small, 12 years old, looking like 10 years. And it was a practically death sentence, but not everybody believed it. When our turn came, we decided to escape to the mountains. It was later during the war in 1944, and those few years, I have no time to describe how we made it somehow alive, zigzagging and pretending and this and that, hiding. Mountains where we lived were high, and in summer times they look like this, and we have chosen a place where to dig out a hole in the middle of the forest and hide there, believing that in a few weeks we might be liberated. It took another 7 months and a very tough winter to spend in a hole like this under the ground, camouflage, while patrols were trying to find us and shoot us. And 200 days and nights, it's a very long time. In summertime, it was so high in the mountains, you see snow on the peaks in the background, and in the front, it's still green grass and more or less summertime. In wintertime, it looked like this, and we were hiding in the middle of it. That's why German on horsebacks didn't find us, so Slovak soldiers and all kinds of people who believed that very high price on our heads would make them rich. And we somehow made it alive. Somebody else found us, parachuted guerrillas, but I don't have time to explain that. Many Jews hiding like that. This is one of my paintings showing they were found, caught, and shot, regardless of the age or social status or whatever. It is a little bit modern rendition of the same idea. Sometimes they took younger people into those cattle cars and moved them to labor camps to use their muscles to work before they were killed or they perished as receiving 600 calories a day with very hard work. And in a few weeks or months, they got sick and died anyway. When they ran out of those cattle cars because the Soviet army was too close, at times they called them Red Army, they made those death marches, and this is one of my paintings which made it into a lot of books and literature and so on, because it shows. Anyway, in 1945, Red Army defeated the Nazis, and from the other side, Americans and French and English. And this was a turning point in our lives, naturally. I needed the way to heal myself, and not only I, physically, mentally, but a communist regime took over in Czechoslovakia, and we were unable to even commemorate our dead, because the only heroes were proclaimed to be Soviet soldiers who were really fighting, and a lot of them died. They say 27 million Russians died in that war, which means that they didn't share even the reputation of being a victim. And I had to work in that country for 20 years, and it was a long time. After the war, we tried to restore normal life because we were too ill to emigrate. First task was to restore my interrupted education. I made a high school diploma. In a few months, I rejoined the school after 5 years of being almost illiterate. After 5 years not going to any school, I was 15. And then I continued. I was eventually sent to study chemistry because Stalin, Soviet Union, needed better explosives and better weapons, which means they took all students who graduated with best marks in all subjects, and they shipped us to chemical school in Prague, where I became a chemical engineer, and then even PhD specialized in glass, in making glass, and naturally science as well as manufacturing. These are my all kinds of credentials, publications, patents, and so on. 20 years later, they sent me to Cuba to fix glass industry in Cuba. And 9 months later, we were traveling in a Cuban airplane, which refueled in Canada. We ran away and became a stateless refugees. I was married already with Noemi, who was also a Holocaust survivor, but she was only 22 months old. And all those 22 months, she was already sentenced to death. Her parents were hiding, pretending, and so on, survived the war. And I found her and married her. This was my first painting after we escaped, because in Czechoslovakia, Holocaust art was not tolerated, paintings would not be exhibited, and any lectures or some kind of a description of suffering Jews was not invited or tolerated or practiced. Which means that this was my first attempt trying to test my abilities to express myself. And I described 40 years of life. You see the angry face and description on the right-hand side. It came spontaneously, and I understood that I could do something like that in art, which means that I started remembering faces of my relatives. They were a few dozens. About 90% of them were murdered. And I carved faces which looked like a flame here are also some carvings with the name Zachor in one of them. Zachor means remember. Each of those 6 million Jewish victims had a face and a name, and there were 1.5 million children among them, which means that this painting also made it through the world and was used as a symbolic of the Holocaust. Here are ceramics, ceramic sculptures and ceramic items which were with texts reminding Holocaust. This is one ceramic sculpture as well. paintings, just remembering those terrible times. This is how we felt, surrounded by enemies, sentenced to death. This is a painting which is showing a Jewish person recognizable through the culture and religious symbols, with the dead bodies on the right-hand side and a march into nowhere. At the end of the horizon, you see a flame, which means that most of those victims ended up that way. Here are all those, I would say, paintings and healings. This is a mystical, Kabbalistic collection of symbols where I had to study them because of my experiences during those 200 nights and days, which kept me sane by debating or some kind of communicating with something I didn't understand and later understood what it might have been. After 30 years of glass industry and 14 years of developing digital technology, like making equipment, researching equipment which allowed to make hard drives, which started digital age. I was 68 and became a full-time artist. It was 24 years ago. I have developed original style of painting. You see here those little dots or spots which Impressionists missed. And this was some kind of a completion of that kind of art in oil paintings or acrylics. Exhibition in Bratislava 2002, where this was a great event because a president of the country sponsored it, and it was in a most prestigious hall. Here are another exhibition. One is in New York, and this one is in Bratislava, Slovakia. There are many dozens of exhibitions I had all over, I would say, the world. My painting made it in a book. The book was even marketed using my painting on the right-hand side, you see. And it's called The Jewish American Artist and the Holocaust. It was a professor of art history in Rutgers University. It's another book where my paintings made it. It's a Canadian book with poetry illustrating. When I was 90 years old, in a town which was 2,000 people originally, now 20,000 people, they made me an exhibition of my own paintings and issued a beautiful catalog. It was about 3 years ago. A Slovak movie was made with English subtitles, and you can see that movie online anytime you want to type in Spitz DVD 01, shows in yellow here, and you will see the movie. Recently, during the COVID era, I was participating in making a book about my brother on the left. He was a real artist. And we wrote a book about our own experiences with Noemi, my wife, last year on the right-hand side. I give a lot of lectures. And this is one of in Baruch College. Here is a lecture I'm giving now to you in a very quick way. And on the bottom is something I would recommend you to see, because on the TV channel PBS, usually channel 13, on April 26 at 8 p.m. on Eastern time, at this time, your time as well, it will be shown a movie called We Remember. The painting behind is my painting, and it will be a 1-hour documentary where I even paint in while they're filming it. here are some contacts in case you would be interested in some additional information. And I exceeded naturally the time, but this is the end of the show, and you can ask any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Tibor. Were you able to choose a couple of pieces to show us specifically? Did you have an opportunity to do that?
I'm in the wrong room.
Oh,
I can bring few pieces.
Okay.
Hold a sec.
Okay. And if you have questions for him, I asked him if he would choose a couple of pieces and just talk about them and what they mean to him. And then I'm going to ask him a question about what he thinks that, and he's already had this question, so he's had a chance to think about it. What does he think is the most important thing that the youth of today should know and understand about the Holocaust? So he'll tell us in his words about that. But then if you have questions for him, this device will pick it up, and you can ask questions of him too. I think it's so interesting. His style is so distinctive, and clearly, I mean, he gives recognition to the Impressionist pointillism type of thing, but it's just so distinctive. And there he comes. The walls of his house are entirely covered with his art. Wow.
This painting will become part of that PBS a movie on April 26th. You can see that 6 people in a hole, and it is a painting which I had to paint while 5 cameras were looking at me, and this is a little bit of a show in part of that movie. Here is this one shows like a sketch showing how we build the shelter, and this one is a painting which already you have seen in that presentation, which shows how we squeezed in that little hole, survived the coldest and most harsh winter of the century. That's why German army lost the war, and Russians were used to winters like that, which means that they had an advantage. And we did not freeze, we did not starve, and we were not found to be shot. Even if once somebody found us, like guerrillas, which were parachuted behind the enemy lines to fight Germans, to fight the Nazis, found us and lined us up to be executed, and we made it somehow miraculously alive. I have hundreds of paintings of Holocaust related subjects, and I have a lot of then when I exhausted the subject and became real professionals, and I started painting anything, which means that I can keep you busy for many hours, because I paint about 1,000 pictures, and I don't believe that this is the right time to.
So painting all about the Holocaust actually helped you to be able to paint about other things, to move on to other topics?
For 20 years, I was unable to even think of it. My brother was a painter, and he was a professional, as I show you the second monography about his life. But he did not make it because he was uncomfortable to the government, and they did something to kill him. And he became ill and died 33 years old. He left a lot of paintings, Holocaust related, but he could not exhibit them, and he suffered a lot because this was a reason not only that we were in danger to be murdered, but even talk about it later on was a good reason to become mentally ill, or some kind of a, ruined self-confidence, and suffering continued because we were suspicious people who, could be robbed and harmed without paying for it. These criminals are trying to find victims which they can harm without paying for it, without being punished, or some justice applied to them. Which means that if governments do it, now you see Ukrainian war again, a big, huge superpower trying to take over a smaller country, and they don't have any mercy, or some kind of they don't restrict themselves because they know they can get away with it. And this was terrible during the Nazi era. Then 20 years of communism continued in persecuting us. And then only after escape, I was carrying it with me. I was an engineer. I tried to somehow numb myself by inventions and patenting things and publishing things. And it helped a little, but only after I used art to transfer my frustrations into paintings or into pieces of art, carvings and so on. Then only I felt some kind of with each painting which I made and sometimes published, I felt some kind of a weight falling from my shoulders, and some kind of a hurt moving away from my mind and from my subconscious. And I can really prove through my life how art can heal people. And this is not the first time I'm talking about it, because people noticed it. And I'm still alive and fully functioning as almost 93 years old, which is proving at least something.
Well, we are most happy that you are here and that you're sharing your art with us and your story with us. Before I let you go, and before I turn to the teachers to ask if they have a question, what do you think? We talked about this question before. What do you think is the most important thing for our kids today to know and understand about the Holocaust and what happened? The hard question.
No, it's not very hard, because the way millions of people were taken to their death had been done not through violence and force, but through propaganda and deceit. Mm-hmm. Nobody told us, Jews, we don't want to have us here. We are going to take you to a gas chamber, kill you, burn you to ashes, and use your ashes as fertilizers. Nobody told us something like that. They told us, you will go and work, and who can work would help German and Nazi war effort to fight in front lines and so on. And you will feed your children and your wives and your old people. This is what we were told. People found out only when they were taking a shower to be disinfected, that in 15 minutes, when the poisonous gas came to kill them, the last 15 minutes, they understood how they were deceived. My message to young people is to be very careful with propaganda, and very careful with promises, and very careful what you confront the truth, confront the reality with words promising you this and that, which means that most important is not to get deceived and to understand facts. And this is my major message. Naturally, I can produce 15 other ways of supporting young people and their education and insight and all kinds of strengthening of their senses and so, but or muscles or bones and so. But the most important is to find out the truth about their own existence, about their own safety, about their own lives, and act upon it. If necessary, fight back. If they are in danger and it's too strong opposition, then run away. Which means that this is what how you can then come back later and settle the scores. But never give up. Never give up and let be deceived and eliminate it from the game. A little longer sentence, but this is my main message.
Thank you. I appreciate how, what I meant by this was a hard question is just what you said. There are many things that you could say, but I think the message that you just gave us is a very, very important one that most of us would agree.
Be aware of reality.
Yep. Be aware. Definitely.
Don't get fooled. This is the main message.
Do any of you have a question you want to ask? There is a question in the back. Go ahead.
What made you start creating art? How did you get into it?
What made me start using art?
Yes.
It was like I was trying to find a language which was more powerful than speech, because speech you can believe or you don't have to, or you can listen. It's very well known that about if you listen to something about you retain about 20%, male 20%, female about 50. But anyway, either way, the word could be deceiving, but art can express in visual way the truth better. And if it's a combination, as I have tried with my slideshow, combination of explaining in words and images, I believe it's more powerful. And you as educator probably do the same thing and appreciate that if you use more senses of the students to get your message, they would remember it easier and longer.
Thank you.
I see a lot of heads nodding, and teachers recognize that for sure. And there are a number of art and music and drama teachers in the room who would agree with you 100%.
If you look at that movie, 26th of April, which is called We Remember, they are 4 people who received a song. A song was made of their experience, which they shared with the songwriters. And this is another way through music to tell the story, through music and through emotions, because music is more emotional than rational. And it goes straight into the heart, doesn't have to go through rational, logical thinking through the brain. It goes through something which a language is calling the heart. It's not a pump, biological pump for blood. It's a heart which is describing or symbolizing emotions. And through emotions, music is extremely powerful. But still, visual images, I believe, are more powerful, and I have chosen intentionally. My brother was a painter. He went to school for it. I went to school for engineering, chemistry. And when he went to school, I saw I've been with him through his studies, through his books, anatomy, art history, examples of other artists throughout hundreds, if not thousands of years of history. And I was carrying it with me, but I had to study chemistry. And when the time arrived, I could use all those memories, went to night schools, to colleges, and perfected myself, and even discovered a incomplete history of Impressionists who died too young, and then Cubism took over, Picasso, Braque, and all the others, and they never finished. Impressionists never finished a logical development of their movement, and I was told, I wanted to say accused of completing that movement by my style of painting, which I was very proud of, but something happened to me which is very rare, and I just appreciate those art historians who lifted my self-confidence, because there are many, many artists and not too many push some kind of a historic development of an art movement. And I somehow, as a chemist or person without really being schooled for that particular subject, achieved it, which means that, I'm a short guy, and it gave me a few inches of self-confidence.
So I'm going to interrupt you just for a minute. For those of you that are interested in seeing the film that he's speaking about, it's right here on this sheet. It's the one that's We're Remember Songs of Survivors. It says coming soon from PBS. It's about a third of the way down on your resource sheet. So you might put a star by it to remember. And what date did you say that was? The 20?
26th of April.
Okay.
At 8 p.m. Eastern time.
All right.
And it will be all over the country. PBS is everywhere. And a few other countries purchased this movie. I know for sure about Israel, because it's about Holocaust. And some other countries as well. And it is a uniquely presented way of a terrible historic event through music which eventually is promoting optimism, promoting positive thinking, promoting life, and promoting next well-being of humankind. It's not sitting on the floor lamenting about something which happened. I might share with you what I usually tell students talking when I'm giving lectures to high schools or colleges. Don't cry over the spilled milk. Bring a cat. Do something useful beside lamenting and beside, crying over some losses. Make it serve the future rather than, stuck in a sad, negative feelings of some injustice. Because life must go on, and humankind has no intention to give up its existence on this planet. And we have to support that and promote freedom and promote well-being and possibly peace, even if statistics say that in the last 3,500 years, there were only 8% of peace in human societies, in human race, and 92% continuous wars and conflicts, which means that it's not too much space for optimism, but without optimism, life would be worth nothing. which means that let's hold on to those 8% and make it 80 or 90 or 100.
Thank you. That's a wonderful place to end, unless anybody does have another question. Okay. Tibor, thank you so much for sharing your art, sharing your story, and sharing this wonderful outlook on life, because you're right, optimism is extremely important.
And I thank you for talking about it, covering it, and somehow relating to this event in a positive way, warning and teaching young people not to fall into the same trap.
Thank you.
When reason is eclipsed by hate and reluctance to speak out in truth pervades, where furtive whispers breathe behind shuttered doors and subtle pointing on crowded streets precede denunciation, deportation, death. I will remember the winding cattle trains ferrying you through frozen nights, needle-like hunger your companion, the teeming ghettos, withered feet and tattered shoes shuffling endlessly on gritty sidewalks for nourishment, for body, for soul. The fortified showers with steel-trapped doors and poisoned air hidden behind flower-draped wooden and barbed wire fences. I will share photographs stolen through dirty windows, charcoal sketches scratched out in dark corners, and paintings crafted in secret. Manuscripts buried in fields for safekeeping, under floorboards and in cupboards, next to wispy sheets of music and diaries chronicling crimes. Each damning piece a mosaic of evidence, an eternal voice louder than any human could utter. You have shown me the beautiful kaleidoscope that is the human race, where color of skin is no longer a weapon, and faith restores what religion has torn down. Because of what you have shown me, I will not forget, and I shall never again remain silent when hatred eclipses reason. I will speak out in the face of tyranny. When fear builds walls and lies become truth, I will open my arms, my hands, my voice, because of what you have shown me. I apologize for being emotional.
Well, it's okay. And the subject matter is very emotional to all of us. And we so appreciate you, and for you to bring your talent and your passion of poetry to our audience, and to our national worldwide audience who will see this recording. So if you could stop your screen share for a second. He's also here today. So I'm going to now have you, Jackie, unmute yourself. I want to remind everyone to go to that reactions button and raise your hand if you want to add your voice to the Q&A. Please, Jackie, why don't you take?
Yes. First of all, did you have sound during this song? There was no sound.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And unfortunately, I have to leave in 5 minutes, but
I'll take care of it. So any questions for?
In this case, can I ask my question before I leave?
Okay, go.
Okay. First of all, Tibor and Neomi, this is absolutely amazing. I am working on the Holocaust for many years and very, very, very touched by your story. And I love art. My question to you is, after pronouncing your feelings regarding your health and your spirit, you have so many colors and so many touches in this art. How come?
I don't know what to answer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I see. They are traumatic. They are representing horrors and sometimes hope, as you say, where we have to go. But even if those very difficult images that you have created, there is a lot of colors, which takes at least my spirit to hope and to love. And I think this is admirable.
I I am getting this question a lot from young people and from professional artists. And my answer is with the English saying, and it's my life philosophy: do not cry over the spilled milk. Bring a cat. You, out of the worst situation in life, you have to learn rather than sit on the floor and lament. Lamenting brings nothing, but you have to learn, survive, go on living, and be positive.
Thank you for the lesson.
The most morbid, I would say, sad paintings, I have intentionally used bright colors, and I had dozens of exhibitions all over, and these questions came very, very often. You have to respond to all tragedies with positive attitude, recovery, hugging, love, and go on living. And it's no other way. Otherwise, you join the losers. That's why Judaism exists for almost 4,000 years, because it's not sitting on the floor lamenting. And Holocaust was a terrible tragedy. And even that, we have to learn and become strong. Israel, state of Israel, is a good example.
All right, Kathleen, you wanted
Thank
to
you.
ask a question? You can unmute yourself. And Jackie, whenever you have to go, you can just log off.
Thank you.
Can you
I
put
was
yourself, can you put yourself on the camera, please?
Oh, sure. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
No?
No.
I see your name.
Okay. Thank you so much. This has been so uplifting. It's depressing, but it's uplifting. It's empowering, and I couldn't help but in the last few sentences that you said, sir. Yesterday, I met a friend who said to me, Kathleen, I'm very, very saddened by what's happening with the mental health situation in the world. Young people today are committing suicide. Just last week, I read about 3 men in their under 40 age group, and I learned that all 3 of them had committed suicide. And we have a mutual friend whose daughter did as well about 2 months ago. And I said to him, yes. And I said, what do you think is the reason for all this? And he said, they don't see hope. And I said, they've never spent time with a Holocaust survivor. They need to hear this gentleman speak, that no matter how bad it gets, you reach out, you hold on, you don't give up. Whatever is causing this rash or whatever is happening, sir, I think that what you just said now really hit a nerve with me, because it's very, very concerning with the mental state of the world and young people today choosing that option. What you lived through and how you didn't give up is an honor to all of us, Jews and non-Jews of this world. Thank you.
May I answer with a joke?
Sure.
I have a favorite saying: first 100 years of life are the worst. I almost reaching that. It is no other way, but I was invited to many, many sessions, and they call it trauma therapy or trauma art therapy, because I have shown in the last few decades that approach, that you don't give up. Simply, you don't give up, and you have to have some kind of awareness who human beings on this planet are, and some knowledge about the meaning of it. Everything is like, if you go quantum mechanics, everything seems to be just some kind of a mechanical machine the whole galaxies and universe is made of. But with your mind and will and awareness, you can pierce it like with a hot knife through the butter. And this is what people should learn, how valuable they are, how lucky they are not to be born like an ant or a blade of grass or a branch of a tree, but they were born as human beings. And this is an incredible journey. And so many people thanked me for changing their lives for 40 or 50-minute lecture about this, about the value of being alive, about the value of being lucky to be born as a human being.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Is there anybody else? Do you want to try? Go ahead, Ronnie. Unmute yourself, please.
I just want to tell you, you're making us cry over and over again, but thank you for the words of wisdom, Tibor and Naomi. I might be saying it wrong.
Noemi.
Naomi. Okay, but thank you for sharing your stories. I want to also tell Sarah, good luck with your novel writing. There's a few of us authors on here. I don't know about the others, but I started out as a poet. And so I haven't had much time to write it lately, but poetry is just another form of art that, like Tibor, the artist, and the others. I'm sorry we didn't hear Zola's video of the beautiful children, but we can tell that, how powerful all these videos would have been if we could hear them and see them. But Sarah, I just wish you all luck with what all you're doing, and Sarah, let's see what other writing you're doing, and your and looking forward to hearing about your novel, and so you can join the rest of us who are published authors. We have a lot of commonality, all of us, and it's lovely to hear about that week after week with Jeffrey. Jeffrey, sorry about your tech difficulties. We all understand, and I know that those who wanted to present are sorry, that it didn't work out, but I'm sure they're powerful. We'll get that off screen.
Yeah, I do want to recommend that you go to Amazon, and it's on Amazon Prime, called Songs of Survivors. It's a beautiful film. I don't want to leave Zola without sound, so I'm going to try one more thing, because I think this is so beautiful that I have to try it again. So let me try. And then I'm going to ask you if you can hear it.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Good.
Wir singen, wir klappen unser Herzen, mit Rhythmen von euer Leben, herzlich zu. Wir seien euer Kinder, wir singen euer Lieder, zu Glück euch, wir seien
I'm glad I was able to get that to work. And Zola, as I said before, every time I hear it, I tear up. So it reminds me so much of my parents, just as you wrote it for your parents. The other thing I wanted to let you know, I'm going to have a lot of editing to do for this program. This program will be fixed and recorded properly so that it can be launched on the YouTube channel and all the other platforms. It will not be launched by tomorrow, I guarantee it. But and we're in the process of moving on Tuesday. So this will take a little longer to do, but we will fix all the challenges we had today and get them appropriately launched. And I want to say hello to you, Mark and Ava and Devora and Tony. It's nice to see you. Thank you for hanging in with us until the very, very end. And we'll see you again. Our next program is on May 21st. It's called Stand Up Against Jewish Hate. It includes a lecture from Professor Jeffrey Dembski on anti-Semitism and cartoons and tropes, and two very important projects, which is dear to my heart, the Butterfly Project and the Paperclips Project, who are coming back for the third time each year to present what they're doing for children in solving hate and providing solutions against the lessons of anti-Semitism. So I would want you all to spread the word about that program. Also, please join and sign up for jcrnow.com, where you can see 15 Jewish channels of content that I'm working on every day to curate. So thank you very much for coming. I apologize very much for the technical problems we had today, but it was also interesting just listening as opposed to just seeing both. So it gave me personally such a different perspective on the movie, which I had seen many times. So it wasn't all bad to just listen. So thanks so much. Have a nice afternoon. We'll see you again.
Wir seien euer Kinder, wir
They stood in fear, where could they go? They stood so brave, what did they know? On this day, hear us pray, each prayer meant for you. B'yom HaShoah yikatevu. How could it be the world was blind? Was no one there to make a stand? On this day, hear us pray, our prayers call out to you. B'yom HaShoah yikatevu. On this day, hear us pray, our prayers call out to you. B'yom HaShoah yikatevu. Never again, never again, hear our voice tonight. Never again, never again, knowing wrong from right. The years have passed, we still recall. The spirit left inspires us all. On this day, hear us pray, the flame still burns for you. B'yom HaShoah yikatevu. On this day, hear us pray, 6 million prayers for you. B'yom HaShoah yikatevu. On this day, hear us pray, 6 million prayers for you. B'yom HaShoah yikatevu.